Okay, we've set up Spyro Orange. Took us a quick second, but soon enough, Tuka is going to join, and we're going to see the goodness that is Spyro Orange. Should be pretty neat, actually. There he is. Okay. I'll leave you guys with Tuka as soon as he joins. Oh, Cameron's also going to be joining him with the commentary. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good run, and
Alright.
Cameron, you can count him down. Good luck, boys.
You ready, pal?
No.
No? Nervous?
No. No, I gotta switch my monitor input. Just so now the game is up. Ready whenever.
Alright. Give me countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
Have fun.
Hello, this is Spyro Orange. It's a great game because it came with Crash Purple, which is also a great game. It's a pack of great games, like in fusion together. That's why in Europe they were also called Crash and Spyro Fusion. And for some reason, the US version is like Crash Purple and Spyro Orange. Anyways, we are starting off strongly with a video game. And
We have the G
Harry,
from Twalk in this
controlling.
level.
That's actually factual and correct, yes. So maybe a bit about the history of this game, like speed history. This has first been shown off at Spyrothon 2. It was a 3-way race of the Beat Cortex category, which does not exist anymore for the same reason, which makes this run 50 minutes faster than it was half a year ago. And
A whole hour,
so-
man. Wow.
yeah, you will see
So why
why.
is that? What happened?
No, you'll no. I'll only explain when it happens,
Okay.
or maybe not even then. I'll just do it and don't say anything. Like, good luck figuring it out. It's actually kind of hard to see, but it's a really interesting thing that will happen. Anyways, the second and so far last occurrence of this game at Spyrothon was last year, Spyrothon 4, by Mike CD-Romatron, who did a, I believe it was 120 cards run, which was like 2.5 hours or so. It's a really long category. I collect everything. We're not doing that. So at the start of the, well, I'm not even sure when the big thing was found. Maybe half a year ago, so of 3 months maybe. Who cares? Before that, the 90% world record was 1 hour 20. Was a bit. I think it was 120.0x, like very slightly above, held by me. And story goes such that at some point I was trying to test ILs because IL community for this game is pretty strong. It's the same as the speedrun community because we're like 4 people. But yeah, at some point we were like, how fast can you do some of these ILs? Like there's some meshing ILs, some platforming ILs, like individual levels. Someone's not aware. And when I tried to test those, I found a really interesting glitch. And I first posted about it. It wasn't really useful. It was just really weird. And yeah, step by step, we figured out what's happening and how to use it to our advantage. Until finally the game broke. Yeah, Ken, by the way, if anything's coming up in chat at any point, feel free to tell me about it. Because I'm actually focusing on the run.
Okay. Looks
these-
like you have
these
to focus
minigames-
hard in this section.
Yeah. To be fair, these minigames are, of course, not difficult. Even more so on first pass, which is the easiest one. But it's rather that dying on a tank level, on a stage 1 tank level, is the most embarrassing thing ever. And I really don't want that to happen. Okay, so for the any percent run, maybe that's a good place to start the explanation. For the any percent run, what you usually have to do, you have to complete every minigame up until World 5 3 times. Like every minigame in World 1 to 4, those are 20 minigames, 5 in each world. You have to complete those 3 times. in order to in order to unlock the portal, which lets you into the 5th world. It's a bit like, yeah, it's not that much of a resemblance, but it's a bit like Season of Ice, where there are what is it, like 99 or 100 fairies or so, and to get into the final boss you need all of them. Like for the previous bosses you don't, but for the final boss you do. Somewhat similar here. So yeah, you can get to World 5 by just doing every minigame once, no problem, but then you read it with a message. Something like Ripto flew into space or something, and in order to unlock this portal you have to complete everything 3 times.
So we have some important questions in the chat about this game.
Please.
The first question you have is, what the
It's Spyro Orange, it's in the title.
Okay.
How
the second
illiterate
question
does
is,
one have to be? Yes.
will you be showing off the DDR game this game has?
Sadly, I'm playing on single card. I'm not sure if the DDR can happen on single cartridge. So I'd rather not try and waste time. Yeah, not sure. Well, I will not try to show it off. No, not even sure if it can happen.
Does Spyro fight Crash Bandicoot in this game?
That's indeed the case in like 2 minutes.
Nice.
So the plot, maybe that's actually interesting. I mean, more interesting than flying from A to B right here in an auto-scroller. So the plot is like that. Ripto and Cortex make a plan together to essentially deceive Spyro into thinking Crash is this new big enemy, and plan kind of backfires. So they fight each other at the end of World 1, and after that they realize, oh, you're not the bad guy. Like, what are we even doing here? What the fuck? And essentially then they start working together and becoming best friends, and eventually saving the world. That's how it should go anyways. Sadly, 80% of the players back when this came out played until World 5, realized they have to essentially complete the game 3 times to finish it, and then they stopped. Which is also the reason why the Beat Cortex category was a thing. Up until the big glitch was found. So beating Cortex means you play every minigame just once. And then you do Cortex, which is the final, not the final, but the 4th boss. And instead of doing everything 3 times, getting into World 5, you just stop. It's a understandable thing to do because it makes the run actually fun. And I think Beat Cortex record was like 32, 34 minutes, something like that, I don't know. Held by 7 Eraser 7 and not me, so I don't care. Okay, that was the first boss. Oh hey, I'm Spyro, you're Crash, let's work together. That's kind of how the story goes. One thing I did there after the pinball level, it's one of the big movement techs of this game, like overworld-wise. So in the overworld, you can do 3 types of movement. One is the big glitch. Second and third, closely related, found by Mike, I think 1 or 2 years ago or so. It's not super recent, but still somewhat. If you go back to the save slot menu, like you quit out of your current save file, then you go back in, your health is fully replenished, like your sparks is yellow again, or golden, or whatever. And you're also placed at the start of the current world, like of the world you're currently in. So when I did that, I warped from the pinball level back to the start of World 1-2. And that saved a few seconds because the boss portal was closer to me then. What you can also do is a light menu warp. It's the same as a menu warp, but you don't quit back to the save slot menu, but just to the main menu, like continue story, things like that. That places you at the last checkpoint you got. And third one is coming up soon. I'm trying to read chat while playing this minigame. This minigame is not too difficult, although some
What
people
is
in the
this
community
thing
play.
that
Yeah.
Spyro is in? It has like magnet feet.
Yeah, it's a robot thing with magnet feet. Yeah,
Okay.
that's best
There's
answer
no
I can
proper
give.
name for this thing.
I mean, not to my knowledge, but I'm not an expert on the lore of this game, to be fair.
It's a tragedy.
It's true. Okay, so this was another menu warp, placing me back at the portal. Because so in this half of the world, there are 3 paths to take. And there's 1 level on the lower path and 2 on the upper path. So what we do is to do the one lower path, we warp back to the start and then take the upper path. Because otherwise backtracking takes a lot longer. Or like getting fully up takes a lot longer. Another thing I should mention, it's not really important for this run, but the mini games become more difficult with each pass. So you have to do every minigame 3 times usually. First pass is really easy as you see, second's a bit harder, third is really hard. For the pinball levels, that has really severe implications because the ball becomes faster with each pass. Meaning, on the hardest difficulty, the ball is essentially uncontrollable. Even for the game, like the ball can glitch out so hard that it goes right through Spyro.
Nice.
And that's just funny. Unless you're
Sounds
the
like a good
runner, of
game.
course. But yeah, there are
Well, I mean,
number
if it
of
went right through him,
funny
he doesn't
clips.
feel anything, right? So.
That's true. Yeah, there are a number of funny clips of Mike not understanding at all what just happened, because the pinball level did not like him, to put it politely. More auto scrolls, by the way. Okay, so I guess I can already start explaining the glitch. So every world comes, as you saw, with a bunch of mini games, and you can play those in the party mode. So for each save file, there's a story mode where complete the story, and there's a party mode where you can replay every mini game you already completed in your main save file. And so in the party mode, as you might see for a very short amount of time, there are different tabs of but for the worlds. So there's a tab for all the worlds. 1 mini games like Dragon Castles, then 1 for World 2, and so forth. And if you switch between those tabs, the game is, let's say, poorly programmed. So what will happen is the following: I will start up a mini game, but I'm placed in the world itself, and then I warped to the final portal of this world. It's really simple, honestly. It's like evident. Why am I even explaining that? Okay, maybe I should explain it. So when you change the tab, the game lags out for a bit, and right after pressing L or R to change the tab, you press A. Like you buffer A even. That's what makes it really easy. You buffer A, and that means you are entering a mini game, but the game has not loaded the mini games yet, so you're placed in the respective world. As you saw, I was placed in the Arctic world. That's not the story mode Arctic world, but it's a kind of limbo world. It's not the real one, but it's still everything's like geometry, levels, and so on. Everything's the same. And the only thing you can do in this limbo world is changing the checkpoint you have in your story mode. That is a really powerful tool, as we'll see later on. So this warp here I did saves maybe like 20 seconds or so. It's not that big. But one instance of it later will save the infamous 50 seconds. Also funny, there's no collision here. It's a video game, by the way.
This didn't feel like programming collision there, really. I didn't think anyone would even try.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, that's the only point in the like in the game where there's no collision. Like where there's straight up no collision. There are some instances where collision is there, but doesn't really overlap with the texture. Like there's some displacement between those. But here they straight up forgot it. It's no advantage. It's just funny to publicly humiliate whoever developed this game. I
Don't
wonder.
even know. Was this back here Visions?
Yes. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Could be.
I don't know, maybe. I don't really consider them a developer, per se.
Meshing. Let's go. So another warp. Here we go back up. Another thing that matters in this run is gem routing. So in the old any percent run, we got so many gems, we never had to care about it. But now, unlocking a level costs, like in the first world, it costs 10 gems, in the second world, 20 gems, and so on. But you only get 10 gems for beating it once. You get some money from the bosses and some of the overworld gems and so on, but you really have to be careful with those in this run. Also, this is Crush and Gulp. Also has an... Oh, I think I missed that. Oh, no, I didn't. I'll go. Also has some interesting history. Because there... Okay, that works. There was a video... I think it was a video of JT. Or made by JT on this boss, like on the boss's pattern. And for years we kind of ignored it. We said, yeah, I mean, it's mostly RNG. And at some point Eraser said, there's a pattern to this. And he investigated and he was right. The boss is not RNG, like the boss's movement is 100% predetermined. We straight up didn't know that for 2 years.
We were just talking about that in Nurse Run.
Right, yeah, I remember that.
I was shocked to find out that JT had contributed something to a Spyro game that it wasn't Spyro 3. I didn't know he even played other video games besides Spyro 3. So.
That's true. Yeah, at some point he posted that video in the Spyro Discord. Like essentially when Fusion came up again, and Fusion got revived. When I say Fusion, I mean, of course, Orange. I know what a Spyro Fusion, so I'll just say Fusion most of the time. What did I want to say? Yeah, gem routing. There's one interesting thing we'll do in this limbo world. The overworld gems, like the unique ones, are still there. Usually,
sorry.
Camera actively trying to sabotage this run. You may be honest about it, but please just say so.
I mean, you caught me. I am destroying this run.
I'll take that as a yes. No, but so usually these unique, like the non-red gems with value more than 1. And if you collect all of those in the world, you get a trading card, which are essentially the collectible in this game. But they're also in the limbo version of this world. And you can collect them there as well. Without them at least directly vanishing in the story mode. The unique gems are tied together, but not in an obvious way. It's really weird. Anyways, we'll use that later on to not under gem and to actually be able to finish this run. That was actually bad pinball movement. You'd believe it's just pinball, but can actually optimize this a lot. Questions whether you should, but you for sure can. These minigames, by the way, the bridge minigames, where you have to knock down the other enemies, they're really laggy. Mostly because of in this case, it was the lava in the background. It really takes up that much computation power for some reason. There's a similar minigame like that in the last world later on. And there it runs perfectly fine. Just because there's no effects, like nothing in the background. There's just space, empty space.
Tug of War.
Yes.
And tell me how that muscular-looking dinosaur can't pull little dragon to the other side.
I mean, it's just that strong. It's just physics, honestly. Ah, stupid. Okay, doesn't matter. It's just a few seconds lost. Usually you want a light menu warp, like you want to spawn back in at the main portal. But I went back to the save menu by accident, so I would have loaded in at the start of the world, which is very far from the boss portal. So quickly had to limbo warp back to the portal. That's how the technique is called, because I mean this weird party mode world is some kind of limbo world. It's not the real story mode world, and we're warping. So as creative as speedrunners are, called it limbo warp.
We really are creative when it comes to coming up with names for Strats' army.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. I sure wonder what early Ripto could mean. It's a conundrum.
I don't know. You got me stumped. It's legal to do this anyway.
Yeah. And by the way, if you die in any of these minigames, you have to start them all over again. No checkpoint, nothing. And the longest of them takes 2 minutes 10.
Oof.
On average, it's like 120 or so.
That's like an instant reset if you die here then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're going for a really good time, you reset over way smaller things anyways, but dying on a level is an absolute killer, for sure.
If you die in that minigame, you die in real life. I heard that's true.
That's also correct, yeah, it's factual. So this is Nina. Funnily enough, Nina's also... Like, this is a crossover boss, so in the... Also, rather, this boss consists of 2 parts. First part is in the Crash minigame, where Crash... And in the Crash game, where Crash lures her into this area. And then Spyro kind of finishes her off. I mean, he doesn't really finish her off, he just flees, but she's trapped and Professor and Coco are safe. So it's a really creative thing. I don't think anybody ever noticed that, aside from 5 people in the world, that the boss fights in Crash and Spyro in this case are connected. So there you go. Okay, welcome to World 4. Second and last instance of the Jeep level. Where, again, the first pass is really easy. For the third pass, there are mines lying around anywhere, and their hitbox is really, let's say, not that big. So hitting them with your rocket can be really difficult. And if you get hit by a mine on the floor, you cannot change your direction for like a second. So if you hit a mine very close to an edge, you're essentially dead. Best thing you can do is mash your rockets, like you do these very tiny rocket shots. Usually
do these enemies even do anything? They're facing the wrong way for their bat.
Yeah, but that's not my problem, really. Just trying to get to the end.
They're not very good at their job. They're not stopping you very well. If you're facing the wrong way, you're coming from.
That's true. Yeah, the enemies here are really harmless. You can even jump through them, like the flying ones, the flying Ranox. And still not lose your momentum. You can just continue on. right past the shop. So the shop is only really interesting for the run with the collectibles, the 120 cards run.
You
More
buy
on a
something
more.
if you want for the fans.
That's true. I could. I mean, I don't have money to do so, but then yeah,
There's nothing
I
cheap in there.
could in theory. Yeah. But no, it's historically. So what we first found with this limbo warping, we first found shop warping. So if you enter a shop in the limbo world and you exit the shop again, you spawn back at the respective shop in the story mode world. And that was also enough to do the big skip, but this version where you spawn at the boss portal already, that's just way faster. Like it enables a lot of other warps that with the shops would not have been faster. But that's just a historical note. That's what we first had for the run, and then I'm not sure if it was Eraser or Mike, but one of them said you can just go to the boss portal like that. Also, there's no collision here, but just for a bit. Like that's one of the examples where collision is misaligned for like 5 inches or so. I don't know.
I don't think this game should get remastered. I think it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, what could a remaster possibly add to this game? It was a trick question, by the way. Catch 22. This is really bad RNG. What can you do? So if this was a run, I would have reset by now. But it's not, and we can continue. Here's the instance where we take the gems in the limbo world. They still count towards our gem count. Your gem count is saved every time you collect a non-red gem. So essentially the game is continuously saving, which is very much beneficial for us. Because there we collected 50 gems, 5 yellow ones, which is a really nice way of acquiring money. Because otherwise we'd run short. I mean, we wouldn't really run short. There are plenty of other gems to get, but these are the fastest. Oh, what happened with the ball there?
Whoa.
Oh.
That was pretty fast.
What was that?
Was it supposed to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do that, so that was on purpose. That was a frame perfect hyper boost. And it actually is frame perfect. Test confirmed. Because the same thing works in Crash Orange. What did I say? Crash Orange? I mean, Crash Fusion.
I mean, Crash is orange, so you would be partially right.
That's correct, yeah. No, that same thing works in Crash Fusion. Some of the minigames are shared, like pinball minigames also come up in Crash Fusion. And what you can do is you can attract the ball with your magnet, and at the frame after you shoot it away with your whatever thing it is Spyro was sitting in the pinball minigame. For me, that's always the GBA Spyro was sitting in. You'll be able to evaluate my statement in tech part, because that's when the final pinball minigame comes up. Yeah, anyways, doing that, like shooting off the ball frame after letting go of the magnet, gives the ball insane speed, which can also go right through enemies. Problem is the ball is really hard to control for you. So like the ball can also go straight through you, and you lose the minigame. You start from the beginning again. Oops. This is it's not super hard to do RTA. The problem is if you get unlucky, your run is over. So it's not really advised to do that. Anyways, Cam is co-commentating because he also is an aspiring Spyro Fusion runner, as he may tell you about himself.
Yeah, I saw this, man. I don't know what time it was for me. It was like 5 a.m. I'm like, huh. So I downloaded this game, and I haven't played it. I will sometime.
But
perhaps
it's downloaded already.
it's downloaded. So
It's
if
the
I ever
first
want to
step.
play, then I might.
It will happen one day, I'm sure. I'm
One
sure of
day.
it. Okay, this warp saves like a second or so. It's really nice strat for Cortex. That was also found rather recently. Saves 8 seconds if I get it.
Oh wow.
And I did. Nice.
That's like a century for a game like this.
That's true. So you can actually hit Cortex although his shield is on. And it's not super, no, it's not difficult really. Just have to get used to the timing. The problem is that you can hit him at first, but his shield stays on, and you want his shield to wear off. That
Magnets,
didn't really
man,
explain.
How the fuck did they work?
Yeah, that didn't really explain anything, but I kind of have to focus. Yeah, I just skipped 50 minutes of the game, so I had to focus on that.
I mean, you didn't explain how the fuck magnets work, man.
I guess so. So this is really the crown achievement of this game ever, and nothing will ever top that. You cannot change my mind on that because it's a fact. There's no discussion about that. What happens there is that every world is divided into 2 halves. So there's for example for Dragon Castles, it's the first half. Then there's a transition mini game like the what's it called, the gate crank mini game. And after beating that, you get to the second half of the world. Now, World 5 consists of 1 half only. Like this World 5 I'm currently playing consists of 1 half. Oh well, I mean, it's one thing. It's a connected world. But game internally, this is World 5-2. So the room where the game checks if you did everything 3 times is the game internally handled as World 5-1. And by doing a limbo warp, you can go from 5-1 to 5-2, thus skipping the check where the game wants to see if you did everything 3 times. That's the whole story behind it. There's a fun fact, you can also warp. Like if you do the limbo warp, you don't necessarily go to second half of a world. You can warp to any checkpoint, really, of the world you're currently in. But in World 5-1, there are no portals, so if you do a limbo warp within World 5-1, within the check room, you'll just warp to, I think it's 0-0. So you're stuck inside the wall and can't do anything. It's not really useful, but when we thought about it, we thought, well, if this is World 5-1, then what is World 5-2? And it turns out that knowledge saves 50 minutes. I hope at least one person understands what I'm explaining, because I don't.
I'm just like, it saves 50 minutes? Wow, cool, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand how it works. You know it saves a lot of time. That's the cool part.
That's true. Actually, from a runner's perspective, any percent before was a really boring category. And if people like Mike said that, who speedrun essentially anything, as long as it has a beginning and an end, that means a lot. So yeah, bringing this down from 1 hour 20 to 35 minutes is something I would have probably never dreamt of. And it actually makes the run really fun. At least, to be fair, if you're used to the old boring any percent, maybe as a newcomer you'll do this category and be like, well, it's still a lot of auto scrollers, and it is, but it used to be 3 times as much.
So there's a good reason right there.
Yeah.
People don't understand if they hadn't experienced that at its worst.
Yeah. Like imagine 117, but it's 1 hour 20. Just
That'd be
I
nice.
feel like that's comparable. I mean, you don't have to know the old any percent run because it's just this run, but 3 times essentially. Small shortcut here, by the way. Doesn't save time. It's just cool. It's
So,
actually really
yeah.
useful for the later passes because this game is this room there is filled with enemies.
So are you gonna explain to us how the heck magnets work or not?
Yeah, actually, if you press A, the magnets change from plus minus to minus plus. Essentially, that when the whole world flips.
Oh, so that's how
It's
magnets
just,
work.
I mean, it's just physics. If you know the differential equation, and you think, of course, it's obvious.
I'm glad we finally got an answer to
Yeah.
how magnets work. I appreciate that.
Anyways, the run will end in like 30 seconds or so. So whoever is responsible for time,
That
feel
may or
free
may
to
not
get
be
ready
me.
soon. Well, feel free to get ready soon.
I mean, no when.
Oh, a few seconds and time. Woo!
35, 33.
It's actually a pretty
29.
good run. It's like 1 minute behind world record.
Not
Really
bad.
not. Given I haven't derusted this game today and not played for a month before that, it's pretty good.
Easy game. Game is easy.
Yeah. Right. So this is how the run went from 1 hour 20 to 35 minutes, with 1 warp. Actually, funnily enough, unless I'm thrown out because we're 6 years behind schedule, I can quickly show that the room where the game checks for the 3 minigame thing is still there. We literally just skipped it. It's not disabled or anything. It still exists. It will take me 3 seconds to show that. So we go back, we enter again, and here we are. Professor's here and says you need to defeat all the minigames 3 times in order to open this portal. And he's right, but we don't care.
Don't care. We didn't do
Fucking
that.
loser.
What an idiot.
Yeah, man. Well, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks, Cam, for keeping me sane here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And next up is something with Spyro, I guess.
Spyro 2, 100%.
Let's go.